Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Everybody, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, clearly.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, back to our classes.
Start.
Yes, back to our classes. So now we have to start from where we stopped. And yes, so so actually we were talking about the divergent path of liberation. So what you can and what I need you to do is to read the required the prescribed texts so that you yourself understand these divergent different paths. And today I am expecting to end up to finish this class, and I would like to talk a little bit about the category number 2. The category number 2 represent the Buddha's utterances, Buddha's statements about his own enlightenment. Now we know that previously we studied the sources that deal with the enlightenment of others, which means the Buddha's explanations of the way, of the path of enlightenment of others, his disciples. But now we have expressions, statements of his own enlightenment given by the Buddha. So now there are a few sutras where Buddha talks about himself, his experience, the rigorous path. What path? The very difficult path, the rigorous path, very offensive, the path of the sort of very painful path that he was living to be enlightened. So there are few sutras, very significant. For instance, we have this Bodhiraja Kumara Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya 85. You are capable, you can read them. And Mahasachaka Sutta. And is it correct? And there is another sutra. How is it this one? Give me a moment and yeah. So yes, there is another important sutta that is missing here. That I selected. I don't know why it is not included here. The second category also should include another important sutta, that is Dvedha Vitakka Sutta. Yeah, I think I have not given it, but it is here in the list. It doesn't matter. Okay, so the few sutras, and there is another sutra that is called Dvedha Vitakka Sutta. The Dvedha Vitakka Sutta, again, Majjhima Nikaya 19. And another sutta which is not actually given, some mistakes are there now, I notice. So here there should be a few other sutras. There should be the two sutras that I showed you, that is what we call Dvidha Vitakka Sutta, Dvidha Vitakka Sutta, and Arya Pariyesana Sutta. You cannot forget, you cannot ignore these two important sources when you are talking about Buddha's experience of enlightenment. So Dvidha Vitakka Sutta and Arya Pariyesana Sutta are of vital importance. Now, looking at these two sutras, actually, we now sometimes we see that there is a similarity also. There is a similarity also, but interesting thing is that even the Buddha's expression, even Buddha's uh, explanation of his own enlightenment show divergences. Right? In some sources, in some discourses, there is a slight, I mean, it's one thing in the sense that there is a significant difference that we can notice from other sources. So this divergence is not only in the sources where Buddha talks about others, his disciples' enlightenment, but also the same phenomenon we can see in the discourses that he describes his own experience related to the path of enlightenment. But the major things are not different. For example, there is no change of the major scheme, that is Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. Sila, Samadhi, and Panya scheme doesn't change. But within that, we see differences. We see differences. Probably these we don't exactly. We can imagine different reasons for that. It could be for because of different reasons. It could be because of many reasons. But that is that we can understand, because when the sources were preserved across centuries, these changes are possible. But the major scheme is not different. See, there is a moral basement and development of concentration and the ability to penetrate into reality. So these three are not going to change, but the details of the three change. The details of the three change, but the major scheme does not. Okay. So now here we have Bodhiraja Kumara. First we talk about, now if you take Bodhiraja Kumara Sutta and the Mahasachaka Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya are the more detailed ones. The two sutras. So why don't you read these sutras for your understanding? So I think what is important is you read these sutras. So when I found last year, I saw a lot of students. I think this is not a good thing that I'm not happy about. They're using quite a lot AI, artificial intelligence, whatever, chat GPT or whatever, in answering questions sometimes. And we can see some of, but that is not a good thing, and you are not going to get good marks. We can differentiate clearly between the answer, the student's answer, student's creative answer, and the AI generated answer. So the AI generated answer is totally different one. It's not human. So therefore, please read the sources. Okay, because at the end of the year, at the end of the two terms, at the end of each term, we give you a time to prepare, and you can read. You can passing examination is not a difficult thing at you if you have written something in your knowledge, in your memory. So therefore, we need students to read carefully these sutras, and you have so many sources, and you know what to read from these sources now. So therefore, please read. Please go and read, try to understand. Bodhiraja Kumara Sutta and the Mahasachaka Suttas are very detailed, and it has these things going forth from the household into homelessness, as we see in the first category, and also practicing under the ascetics teacher Alara Kalam. Now, before the enlightenment, he was practicing under these teachers Alara Kalam and Uddakarama Putta, and they taught him the pre-Buddhist meditative tradition, the pre-Buddhist meditations, meditative techniques, especially the samatha practices, concentration meditations, both jhana, rupa jhana and arupa jhana basically. So he learned those things, and he understood, and that is not the path, and then he beginning search what might be skillful. Skillful is what is called kusala. So we call it kusala. So he was searching, going in search of kusala, skillfulness. Skillfulness, you need to be free, because even after practicing the yogic meditation, he found himself not freed. He found himself not yet, or yet to be free, or not yet freed. So he thought that you need to be skillful, kusala. This is very technical term. You need to be kusala to be enlightened. So he was going in search of that kusala, skillfulness, need for the freedom, seek in the unexcelled state of sublime peace in the Magadhan country. So that is what we see next. And then occurrence of three similes, practicing penance, including the trances, non-breathing. You can read the source. I'm just browsing through. Recalling the practice on respiration and resultant attaining on the first absorption on the day when the Sakyan king was flowing. On the flowing day, because now in the tradition says, Siddhartha, being a fortunate sanctioned being, the final birth, this is the final birth. So he was born in order to be enlightened. So he was a very fortunate being. So when there was a time when King Suddhodana, his father, went for the annual rituals of starting flowing, annual flowing. On that day, when others were engaging in their activities, Siddhartha, when he noticed that there is no one around him, everyone was focusing on flowing ceremony. He uh, followed the cross-legged posture and started meditation on respiration, breathing meditation. So this is given the meditation that he practiced that time. So it is said we don't know how an infant did that, but it is said in the text. And then he understood that there is a method. Pre-taking food strengthens the body. Now, with that idea, that he knew that there is another path for insight, and then started to take food because he was practicing penances, meditating, as can be inferred on respiration. So probably started on meditation on respiration. Probably this was the meditation he started with. Meditation, because he recalled that he was practicing that respiration meditation. So probably this is where he started on respiration. And attaining to four absorption, or jhana, now we know. Attaining to four absorptions. The four jhanas are very important. So coming to fourth jhana is a very healthy condition for enlightenment and further meditative accomplishment. Pubbe So he also developed Pubbe Nivasa Anusati, retrocognition, Dibba Chakku, divine eye, Asavakke, destruction of taints, the knowledge of the destruction of taints. So that is how it is. So now here it stops. Here the path stops, because as if you have this knowledge, asavakkaya jnana, you are already free. You are already free. So again, we see that path is similar. Path is similar, but there are slight, variations. Slight variations. The Arya Pariyesana Sutta, the second source, describes the above steps from 1 to 3, and then diverts to briefly explain the Bodhisattva realized Nibbana, devoid of birth decay. So there is another difference. So from 3, it does not go to describe what was found in what is found in the other sources. And then we come to the third source, the Dvedha Vitakka Sutta. The Dvedha Vitakka Sutta offers a very distinctive account of the Buddha's path to enlightenment. It says that it is very distinct, very specific type of sutra. Very specific. So it doesn't talk about the respiration. Now, probably Buddha might have started with respiration, right? Probably now he might have practiced this very important meditation to calm down, to calm his mind. But as Dvedha Vitakka Sutta says, it doesn't say anything about this, respiration meditation, but instead it talks about, it says, unlike other accounts, it omits item 1 to 7. Okay, you can read what 1 to 7. The standard schema, and immediately addresses the practice. Now it immediately goes to the practice. The narrative begins with the Buddha's considering the nature of his thoughts. That's very interesting. So for the first time, we hear in the Dvedha Vitakka Sutta, we come across a new way of looking into the practice, new description. Now he was just thinking about his own mind. Probably he thought that it is this mind, which works as usual, which has all these tendencies. You have anger, if you have jealousies, you have sexual feeling, if you have, say, all types of these tendencies, you are very general, right? Doing all these things, you have the same thing. You have frustration, you have disappointment, you have all types of, negative, the thoughts that we can call negative tendencies, negative psychological states, anger, hatred, delusion, flurry, worry, frustrations, jealousy. Now, if you have all these things, you find yourself to be the same person. Then Buddha finally, seems like he finally got the understanding that it is the whole freedom is covered because of this ordinary way of thinking, ordinary pattern of thinking. The regular, isn't it? It's very regular. So all the people have these things. It's a very regular pattern of thinking. Okay. So that is why the negative he started, and Buddha, considering the nature of his thoughts, he considered what type of thoughts do I have. Now, even at that time, having, look at this, it's a very beautiful explanation. Even after 6 years of penances, giving intentional suffering to the body, 6 years according to the traditional texts, and endeavoring seriously, endeavoring seriously he found himself very too general, right? He could divide his mind into two, the nature of thoughts into two. Narrative begins with the Buddha considering the nature of his thoughts, which he separates into two groups, unwholesome and wholesome. This is the point. The Buddha came to the right moment that the mind has clearly these two dimensions. Easy, but very precise. Now you come to a very interesting point. The mind has these two dimensions. You understand one side to be uh, more healthier, healthier, positive, good, and helpful, growing, and the another side which is very negative, unhealthy, and strainful. So that path, Buddha, the two, the Buddha could divide it into. The Buddha could divide it into. The wholesome one are sensual desire. It's very simple. Sensual desire, ill will, and cruelty. These are the three negative, unwholesome thoughts that he found in himself. Kama vitakka, sensual desire, ill will, vyapada vitakka, and the cruelty, vihimsa vitakka. You need to harm others. You need to harm others. And on the other side, and the wholesome counterparts are renunciation, nikhamma. You give up. Instead of kama vitakka, you renounce the kama, renunciation. You are not going to be attached to them, but you renounce. Renunciation. Renunciation is not actually. Now, in modern times, renunciation is interpreted as going away. You leave your place, your regular place of living, your palace, your hut, your house, whatever the place, you leave that places for another place where you can find freedom. So that is the common way of interpreting what we call renunciation. But renunciation is totally, according to this one, psychological. Giving up, letting go, whatever these uh, beautiful things. Now, so we have from the wholesome side, you have renunciation. You give up, you renunciate, leave aside, put aside, and then non-ill will, avyapada vitakka, and non-cruelty, avihimsa vitakka, kama vitakka, nekhamma vitakka. Look at that one. The polar opposite. Desire, sensual desire, kama vitakka. Sensual desire, kama vitakka. Renunciation, you let go things, not going to get attached to something. That is psychological and is called renunciation. Renunciation. Non-ill will, avyapada vitakka. Non-cruelty, you don't have the idea of harming others, torturing others, killing others, imposing pain, executing pain on other living creatures, right? So very clearly, two sides. One side is the polar opposite of the other side, right? So now this is where he started. It's very simple, right? It's very distinct. So this is where I think the Buddha probably, it could have been the most simplest version, right? Looking into your own thoughts and understanding thoughts are the problems. As far as you have these, deluding thoughts that leads you to a very regular type of life, which you don't have escape, right? If you have this kind of, this is something very interesting. So now the people talk about now. I'm sorry to some. We talk about lot of philosophies, right? So we talk about a lot of philosophies where you understand the truth. Looking at say emptiness, being in the present moment, you become enlightenment. You become in, but actually what is important is that if you don't deal with your thoughts, you strive to sort of overcome the power of not controlling them, not suppressing them. Suppressing is a bad word. You are never going to suppress any thought, because as they are suppressed, another time they comes up. But what you are doing is that you are dealing with your own thoughts in order to not to empower them, but to weaken them to the extent that they are no longer strong enough. They're no longer strong enough to activate in a way that they lead you. That is Buddhism. So you need to understand these psychological factors and to encounter them, so that you strive to minimize the power of them, so that they cannot activate, to overwhelm you, to guide you, to lead you. I'm talking about the bad aspect, not the good aspect. So if you the more you uh, diminish the uh, power of negative aspects, then they become very powerless. So that is what Buddha actually trying to do, because he understood finally the thoughts are the problem, nothing else. These empirical thoughts, the thoughts that you can understand, the thoughts that mind that go across, the thoughts that cross the mind are the problem, the unwholesome tendencies. So he saw two groups, wholesome and unwholesome, and he understood that your path of liberation depends on the way how you deal, the way how you manage, the way how you are capable of managing these psychological states. Okay. Any questions? So Dveda Vitakka Sutra is very, very unique. The Buddha realized that whatever a practitioner thinks about and ponders often becomes the direction of their mind. If one tends to think about sensual thoughts, they release the thoughts of renunciation. Now, from here we can understand how powerful these thoughts are. This is the psychological truth. This is a very simplest truth. The power of these emotions. If you think in terms of negative way, negative thoughts, then you tend to become that. You are going to relate yourself to other sides, to awful sides, the bad side, the evil side. So their thoughts direct their minds to that. That is what the Buddha was seriously considering. So then what finally thought was, then as the Buddha kept, now it says, as the Buddha kept cultivating wholesome thoughts by himself, he comprehended that this activity began to mentally exhaust him. Exhausting. Now he knew that what you want to do is to minimize the power of the negative and to comprehend, to develop, to be concentrated on the wholesome side. And they found himself again exhaust, very exhaust. He found very fatigued, not easy, even though he was concentrating on the wholesome side, the good side, he found himself to be exhausted. His mind was fatigued and tensed up. He therefore chose to submerge his conscious inwardly, and this resulted in condition under which neither his body became fatigued nor his mind side. So now He could show inside, consciousness inwardly. Okay, this is a meditative technique. Okay, which is a meditative technique. Then when you move, I mean, only the practitioners can explain this. Only a serious practitioner can explain this because the mind has different levels. Okay, the level that you are concentrating. Of course, when you do your practice on certain circumstances, when your mind is focused on one thing, actually the outcome after an hour or half an hour or hour, depending upon your situation, you become exhausted. That's very natural. But you can't give it up. As you can't give it up, what you do is you take the mind from that layer to another layer. Because mind has different layers. Only the practitioners can explain those layers because he know there are different levels where different psychological state function. So when he was concentrating good and bad, that was one level, and he thought inwardly, which means that another layer, more inwardly. He looked more into the mind, right? That is another layer. So these actually you can free your mind. You can free your mind if you have, say, you are practicing say compassion, loving kindness on some animals. After a certain period of time, of course, even though that is a very good practice, you become exhausted because you might have certain pain, some pain, and you know uh, basically pain, and you must be again fatigued. You must be feeling a little bit, even psychologically and physically, you must not feel well. And then what you have to do is not to give it up, because you must know that there are different levels of mind where you can release yourself. Okay? You can relieve yourself. Then you, from that point, you take into your mind again and you can observe yourself. You can find other psychological state where you can free yourself. So that is an ability of the practitioner. That is an ability of the practitioner. He knows the levels. He knows the stages. He knows the different zones of mind. It's like, for example, here you have a pool and here you have your workplace, working hard, manual labor. Maybe say you are preparing some now you, if you are a carpenter, this is your working ground. This is a beautiful pool or a pond, and when you work here, you are getting tired and you come here and have a bath and relieve yourself. So like that, in the same way, you find one level where your concentration goes on in relation to compassion or whatever, and then after a period of time, then you become exhausted, difficult, and doesn't feel, you are not feeling good. Then what you do is that you take your mind to another layer where you find much more freedom. So that is what actually Buddha did. That's very so that's not anything that that we can't understand. I mean, his mind was fatigued and tensed up. He therefore chose to submerge his consciousness inwardly, submerge inwardly, look into oneself to a different layer. And this resulted in a condition under which neither his body became fatigued nor his mind tense. Of course, we do. And I myself have this experience. When I do that, I find very difficult. Sometimes there is a pain, like somewhere in head, like pain where. So we can actually, I can understand what Buddha did, because having done and having practiced, I know I can understand what Buddha did, because it is absolutely, there is a level. Even though you are dealing with the best thing in the world, still now mind is mind, right? Because these are conditioned bodies and mind. So these the natural experience is there still. So you must be skillful enough. So that is what we call skillfulness. That is, you must be skillful enough not to give up the meditation, but to find another relieving place of relief, for you to relieve for a particular period of time and then come back to that one. Okay, so So there are different ways. So the practitioners know that. And then it says that, okay, now I would like you to look at a little bit the sutra, the original scriptures, because that is it's a beautiful description given. So now this is the original sutra. Pubbeva me bhikkhave sambodha, before my enlightenment. Now see, it's beautiful. Pubbeva me bhikkhave sambodha, before enlightenment. Anabhi sambuddhassa, unenlightened bodhisattvas. Bodhisattva, Buddha to be, not the Buddha, but Buddha to be, the one who is going to become, to be enlightened. So, Anabhi sambuddhassa bodhisattvaseva, to me who was the unenlightened, the Buddha to be, the awakened one. Sato, I am very concentrated, mindful. Sato etadahosi, it occurred to me. It, I understood this. Yang nunahang dvidha katva vitakke vihareyanti. Dvidha katva vitakke vihareyanti. How if I divide my thoughts into two, dvidha, into two, dvidha katva vihareyat. How if if I divide my thoughts into two and continue to do so, vihareyanti. Soko aham bhikkave, monks, that I yo chayang kama vitakko, if there is any sensual desire, vitakka, here actually vitaya basically simply it is desire. Yo cha vyapad vitakko, if there is any type of ill will. Yo cha vihingsa vitakko, if there is any sort of what is the word that we were using here? Now we were using cruelty. Cruelty was the word that we were using. Yeah, that I will take that. Cruelty. If there were any, sorry. Yes. If there is any cruelty, yocha vihingsa vitakko, if there is any cruelty, imang eka bhagam, this is one side. This is one side. Yochayang nikkamma vitakko, if there is any renunciation of the desirous things. Abhyapada vitakko, non-ill will, and abhihingsa vitakko, non-torture, non-cruelty. Imang dutiyang bhagam, this is the second dimension or second aspect. Akasin tassa maiham bhikkave evam appamattassa atapino pahitattassa. Now I am doing that. Appamattassa, I am not lazy. Atapino pahitatta, I am burning. I am burning now. Okay, so when you do this, when you do continue to concentration, good and bad, to try to develop, what is, you are burning. Of course, you are burning. It is a type of burning because the way to burn, negative dimension is to develop positive dimensions and to look at them. When they occur. There is no way, because they are naturally arises and you observe them and you develop what is good, the more you develop what is good, naturally is helpful to minimize the power of the negative side. Viharato, appamattassa viharato. Kama vitakkoso evam pajanan. Now, hello. Venerable, I am in my cabin, yes. I am in my cabin on the second floor near the library. Okay. That is okay. Now, so what is happening is that so evam pajanan. So whenever the sensual desire arises, I know that uppanno ko me ayam kama vitakko. This kama vitakka has arisen. The kama vitakka, the sensual thought has arisen in me. Sochako atta vyabhada epi samvattati. You must be very certain that this is the only way possible, because whenever it arises, you must be capable enough to see the danger of it. Okay, the more you do it, I mean, whenever it occurs, you need a lot of time to spend for that. You must have courage enough. You must be ready to spend a lot of time, because it's like, look at like a water pot which is filled with muddy water. The only way you can remove the muddy particles is that you take you pour more and more clean water into it. You pour more and more water into it, and gradually the more water is poured into the cup, the impurity goes away. So then when you see the different thoughts arising bad, then you suddenly understand this is not my way. So you immediately stop it. You immediately stop. This takes a very long time. Venerable, come. Sorry, I am in a lesson. Come. Give me a moment. Thank you. So, what about other teachers?
Altogether,
Sorry. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Sally.
Okay.
Honorable sir.
Okay. So now, now what you do is that actually now everything, because you stop it. The only way is this one. This is a very simplest version as I see, because experientially there is no any other way. It improves your knowledge, and it is the way that the way to progress. Without being able to do this, without being able to see it, and to minimize the power of these tendencies by seeing the danger of that. I mean, you can see the danger in any way, whatever the way you like. For example, someone might think one of my friends told me that the way he sees the danger is that believing in the next life, he always thinks that these thoughts will lead me again to a new birth, probably hell, or as an animal, or as a man, as a hungry ghost. So I do not need. Okay, so I mean, one of the person known to me, he says that I don't want again to go to a mother's womb, which means another life. So I must strive hard to stop this existence from here. So this is the way how he sees the danger. So whatever the way, I mean, anyone can use any sort of labels to see the danger of having these regular patterns of thoughts. So what he does is he immediately cut off dealing with that particular thought. Even though it is the simplest version, as a practice, it is not easy. It's very difficult because we have trained ourselves in the samsaric journey to see with desires, ill will, and cruelty. That is the way how we have trained ourselves. So within the short period of time, can you suppress all these things? You cannot, you can never suppress. But the only way is to take your time, to be encouraged, to energize yourself, to take time to strive hard, whatever the time it would take, to see the danger and to stop what we call sankhara, what we call the function, the continuation of these negative thoughts, and thereby improving good qualities. So then what is happening is there is a background when these negative thoughts are kind of discouraged, and when these negative thoughts are managed, there is a possibility for more more positive thoughts to emerge. That opens up the path, opens up good feelings, good sensation, good bodily experiences, which shows you the progress. Okay, that is how the Buddha did actually. That is the simplest version, but still he was exhausted. Then what he did was that he found in his psychological realms another layers, another dimensions where his mind is. He found more freedom without more concentrate. So he means that he didn't escape the meditation. He remained in the meditation, but only thing he did was his serious focusing, his rigorous focusing on those six types of thoughts was stopped. And then he remained in the same psychological scenario experience and found a new dimension, new side, new dimension, or a new layer, psychological layer where he could free his mind. This is what we understand as actually the beginning, according to this source, which is the simplest version of the path of liberation, the beginning. This gave his the foundation. So this gave him this prepared for him the foundation for him to start the rest of the career. That is how it is given. Okay. Any questions? So you have to read. So I read the original source because it gives you some idea. And the sutta, there is a little bit of explanation. I think it's important. Now what is happening is that attavya badha epi samvattati Okay. Now you see, uppanno kome ayanka. If the kama vitaka arises, sochako attavyabhadaipi samvatati. It is harmful for myself. Paravyabhadaipi samvatati. It's harmful for others because with that I might harm others. For example, if you have sexual desire, you may commit adulterate, or you might sexual conduct sexual misconduct, which will harm someone in this world. So it could be harmful for others. Ubhayavyabadhaipi samvartati, harmful for both. Panya nirodhiko, it diverts the wisdom. It diverts the weakened. Panya nirodhiko means it diverts, or it's obliterate. It obliterates, weaken the wisdom. Vighata pakkiko. Vighata pakkiko, like the friend. It's a painful, on the side of pain. Now you see that these regular thoughts are, even though simple, they are not, they are very dangerous. You have to see them and to minimize the power of them. Like that. So see the danger and develop positive side. So that now that is how the Buddha practiced actually, according to this sutra. Okay. So now any sutra, now this kind of practice makes your mind free from these disturbing thoughts. The more you do this, the more you can see the negative things and to deal with them, to sort of minimize their active power. What is happening is that your mind becomes more pliant for you to cultivate your mind. Then you can start more rigorous kind of practices, and Sutta deals with that also. Then you can start samadhi. Samadhi, then it talks also, the sutra talks about samadhi then only. It talks about samadhi then only, the concentration level. It talks about four jhanas. It talks about four jhanas and other things. So even though this is the practice, that is not the end. That is where, according to this sutra, where the basement is prepared for that. The basement is prepared. The basement is prepared for your more rigorous practice, for more rigorous practice, and then you come to other levels where samadhi is possible. So for samadhi, you need to have what is again samadhi. And another question is that if you look at this one, you understand that actually enlightenment is not the kind of any artificial thing, right? Not just breathing alone, not just thinking about foulness of the body, not just concentrating on the elements, not something like that. So it's looking into your mind. It's a very practical, right? Very practical. No any kind of not any mystic type of. It's not mystic. Very natural, very intelligible, and very simple. That path. So the more you do it, actually, then you improve actually. Then we have to think that do we have another? Now here, when the mind becomes very very soft, but this kind of practice, very free, come to a very free stage, I think that's itself, okay, that itself is a basement for you to increase your samadhi. Because there are sources, these ancient sources sometimes do not see any significant object of meditation. Now today we have commonly, how many objects of meditation do we have? How many objects of meditation do we have in the normally in the practice? In number, according to Visuddhimagga?
According to Visuddhimagga, we have for samatha, we have 40.
40, yes, very 40. But if you look at these old sources, actually yes, they in this path, actually, sometimes they're not specific. They're not specific in proposing this or that meditation subjects. Okay, just meditation subjects. So it's just when they talk about samadhi, the growth of samadhi, it is the natural ability. So now this is freedom, right? Now this freedom itself is the basis for the arousal of the samadhi. So the practitioners understand that when the mind is totally free from these embarrassed thoughts, the samadhi naturally grows. It doesn't need any specific meditative technique. Samadhi naturally grows when the mind has come to the real moment stage of freedom. When you can feel freedom within yourself at a certain stage, when you feel freedom, the real true freedom, without any obstacles, these negative thoughts, feelings, the practitioners know that it's arousal of samadhi is a very natural phenomenon. When your body and mind comes to the proper situation, you don't need to strive hard for your samadhi to arise. It naturally arises. You don't have anything to do much. So if you look at the sutras, like maybe we also can find another sutra. Let's see. I have this sutra. I am reading Samanya Pala Sutra, not from, and this is common even to the sutra that we read. Now, the Dvedaha Vitakka Sutra. And also the same idea is given in these sutras. Like here, this one is page number 172 of the Samanya Pala Sutra. Look at this. Samanya Phala Sutra. Now, the sutra is Samanya Phala Sutra. Samanya Phala Sutra, and I'm reading page number 172, and it says, abandoning worldly desires. This is where we stopped. Abandoning worldly desires. Didn't we? Yes. So, when you see the danger, when you see the three types of desires, kama, vitakka, vyapada vitakka, and vihingsa vitakka, the desires, thoughts, ill will thoughts, and then cruel thoughts, then you abandon worldly desires. You can abandon, because when you see the danger of them, you can easily abandon them. You no longer want them to cross your mind. You can minimize their power. You abandon them that way only. That way you do it. And then desires dwells with mind freed from worldly desires. Freedom is very important. Now, what is this freedom? Now that is very interesting. What is this freedom? Now that freedom is a freedom that actually you need. It's a moment of freedom, that it is a freedom of what we call vimutti, is it? Freedom is vimutti. Freedom, what you have even after the enlightenment. At the enlightenment, it becomes permanent. But when your mind becomes free from these desires, still At that moment, your mind you are touching what we call Nibbana, isn't it? It is a moment that you can feel, experience. Okay, you can experience a kind of, not in a permanent way, the real way, but it's a touching. Okay? It's a real freedom of relieving. Okay? What we call uh, abandoning of psychological disturbances. Then your mind, you actually feel the freedom. Then you actually feel the freedom in meditation when your mind is actually totally away from these discursive thoughts, whatever comes to different senses, and when you can give up all the, I cannot describe this. I mean, your feelings about your mind and matter, that all the disturbances that flock in your mind because of the sense data. If you actually can free mind, you need to learn this. If you can free your mind from all these disturbances, the real freedom you can enjoy. Okay, you can focus on that freedom alone. You can concentrate on that freedom, and then samadhi naturally arises. So here it is given, when you freed worldly desires and his mind purified of them, abandoning ill will and hatred, and by compassionate love, and so at the same time you develop positive qualities, compassionate love for the welfare of all living beings. Mind is purified. The mind becomes purified. Ill will and hateful, abandoning sloth and torpor. Sloth and torpor gone. Perceiving light. Your mind perceiving light, when one of the signs of freedom, one of the sign of freedom is your mind become very how should I explain, perceiving the light means that aloka sanya, that you see, your vision become brightened. Okay? Your vision become brightened. That's a meditative experience. Mindful and clarity, clearly aware. His mind is what is that? Like purged of, sorry, purified of sloth and torpor, abandoning flurry and worry and worth. So the five hindrances are gone. You are free from five hindrances. The more you abandon the negative thoughts, gradually five hindrances are uh, abandoned. And that is a real freedom. And in the Samanyapala Sutta talks about the beauty of this kind of freedom. And just as a man who had taken a loan, so if you were suffering from if you were disappointed, if you are having disappointment of uh, getting of indebtedness, you have a big debt for someone, that is a psychological burden, and on the day that you have spent, return that amount of money or whatever that you have taken from someone else, that day you actually feel the freedom. So like that is an enjoyable day, that's a happy day, that's a very fascinating day. So in the same way, when your mind, for the practitioner, when his mind, when he feels that his mind has abandoned the five hindrances, he feels beauty. He realizes, he experiences inner beauty. So that is why so many examples are given to describe this kind of situation. Okay, so So it says, as long, sir, as a monk does not perceive the disappearance of the five hindrances, he feels in debt. Look at that. Until you have these five hindrances in you, Kama Chand, Vyapad, Tina Middha, Uddhacha Kukkucha, and Vitikiccha. Kama Chand, sensual desire, Vyapad, ill will, Kama Chand, Tina Middha, sloth and torpor, the laziness, Uddhacha Kukkucha, flurry and worry, the instability of mind, Vichikiccha, doubt. As soon as you are going to have it, you feel debt, sickness, in bonds, slavery, you are a slave, desert journey. You are not rest, you are not, you don't, you are restless because you are in a desert because of danger. So like that, disappearance. So when you disappear, when you find you this, now when you see yourself without this, uh, five hindrances, then you experience the true freedom. And then 75 says, and when he knows that these five hindrances has left him, gladness arises in. Now look at that. Gladness arises. Naturally, the gladness arises in. So that is very natural. You don't need, there are sutras actually described about this situation. You don't need to strive unnecessarily. That is very natural when you focus, and if you can diminish the power of these psychological factors, sensual desire and all kind of negative thoughts, the gladness arises in. But that, for that you need to work hard actually. It's not something just come to you within a day or 2 days, 3 days. No, it's not happening like that. But you need to take some time, sometimes 4 months, 5 months, or maybe a year, or probably 2 years. It takes time, but you have to be very alert, and you have to be very tolerant, very tolerant, until the proper time comes, right? Gladness arises in. From gladness comes delight. From the gladness comes delight. And the delight, piti and sukha. These are piti and sukha. And then from the piti, his mind, his body is tranquilized. The tranquility of, because of the delight, from the delight in his mind, his body is tranquilized. When you have this the preeti, that is called delight, then your body is tranquilized. With the tranquil body, he feels joy, and with joy, his mind concentrated. Look at that one. The concentration is not something out there, it naturally arises. When the proper time comes, when your mind is freed, by gradual practice, your concentration naturally arises. The practitioner knows how gradually the concentration arises, and how it improves. And he sees that. He can actually sees that. And he can experience the beauty of the improvement or the growth of his concentration. He can observe it clearly. And he feels the absolute beauty of the practice. So that is how it is given. So it is happening the same way. And then actually, now look at that. And this naturally brings you to the levels what we call 4 jhanas. I mean, that alone, may gun actually. So now what is happening is that actually then jhana is not something different. Jhana is not something different. So that gradual growth of that concentration lead you to what we call first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and fourth jhana. So what you have is, what you experience is a progress, improvement of what we call happiness, joy, piti, sukha, like that. Now, in order to explain this, the Buddha has the four jhanas. Buddha has given a few examples. Look at the examples. And when he knows that these five hindrances have left, now he is sure the five hindrances are gone. Now left him. Gladness arises. From gladness comes delight. From the delight his mind, body tranquilized. With a tranquil body he feels joy. And with joy his mind concentrated. Now concentration. Okay, from here again. Being thus detached from sense desire, detached from unwholesome states, he enters and remains in the first jhana. Look at that one. That is the first jhana. That is what we call first jhana. Is your mind somewhere else? No. You are here and now. You don't need to forget the experience. You don't go to a different realm. You are here and now. You can experience all kind of experiences around you without any problem. So first jhana, as we see here, is not a situation where you totally unconscious about the external world. That is, I think, is not what is given here. While experiencing your bodily and mind, feelings and so forth, you can come to the first jhana with this true empirical mind, which even can, experience the outside things. It's not a different realm, cut off from the worldly experience, cut off from the sensory experience. No, the sensory experience is there, but for a time, for a particular period of time, you have weakened your sense organs, but you are totally focused in this delight and the freedom, on this freedom, isn't it? Totally focusing on this freedom, psychological or freedom mind. That is what is happening. Okay, so now he comes to the first jhana. What is first jhana? Which is with thinking and pondering. Now this is the regular explanation. Detachment, filled with delight and joy. Now, if you know Pali, you know that vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, ekaggata, sahitam, patamajnana, like that. And with the delight and joy born of detachment, he suffuses, drenches, fills, and eradicates his body, that there is no spot in his entire body that is untouched. The whole body is untouched by this delight and joy. So that is the first jhana. He experiences a complete delight within his body. That is the first jhana. Now example is given, just as a skilled bathman or his assistant needing the soap powder, which he has sprinkled with water, forms foam it in a metal dish, a soft lump, so that the bowl of soap powder become one, what is it? As an old word, oleaginous mess. Yes, it's one mess, bound with soil, so that nothing escapes. So this monk. So now everything, it's a bound water. So everything is filled up. The whole mess is filled up with water. There is no any place where there is no water. So everything is filled. So in the same manner, his delight is throughout, the happiness and delight is throughout the body. So that is a situation. That is a totally empirical meditative experience. It's a beautiful meditative experience, possible for everyone, to you, to me, to anyone else. It's not something out there. It's not something magical, but it's total meditative experience when you come to a level where you can truly experience meditation. So this explains the four jhanas themselves, like manner, and then another example. So it explains how this joy, piti, joy, and then you develop the meditation, come to the fourth jhana. Carefully read about jhana level and try to understand it as not as a mystic thing. Jhanas are not mystic. Jhanas are actually the natural outcome of the experience of freedom. Experience of freedom when you don't have negative thoughts. From the stage, on the basis of not having the negative thoughts, okay, you can observe your concentration naturally progressing, leading you to the fourth jhana, even when you are conscious about the external world. So it's not going to a different realms through like respiration meditation or any other meditation like kasina. No, not like that. So it's a true empirical, this worldly experience. Okay. Okay, now concentration, and then with the concentration, your insight becomes acute, and then you can go to other sides. And the final outcome is destruction of asavas. Asava kaya. Asava kaya, the destruction of asavas. The last indicator of the enlightenment. Asava kaya. Ka means cut. Ka means destruction. You destroy your tendencies. That is the final knowledge of the path of enlightenment. So that is how the explanation of the text goes. Text goes. Sorry. Okay, so now that is the end of this discussion. I don't think I should explain more about about this sutra. Because rest it's up to you. You can read. Please read the sutras, because this is not just a lesson. This is actually not just a lesson, but it is more than a lesson. It is more than academic, phenomenon. It is just the. Actually, this is totally about our life, right? So, okay, so that's about our realization. That's about our realization. Okay, so any questions? Do you have any questions? No questions?
No question.
No question.
No questions. Everything is well understood. Okay, so including Nibbana, everything is well understood, including Nibbana. Okay. Yes, we can stop this lesson, and not this lesson means that handout, and then we have the other lesson. I have sent you another document, and this is about what we call the noble persons. Now, that's an interesting discussion, and these are the topics that I'm going to take up: the noble person, Ariya Puggala, and the subcategories of Gotrabhu, Sotapanna, and Anaga. So there are two major dimensions. One is basically whatever I have to talk about, noble person, and the second dimension is how the major three categories called Gotrabhu, Sotapanna, and Anaga are presented. Right. What is Ariya Puggala? Have you read this document? I am sending this document to you in advance for you to read it in advance. Okay, so because here we have varieties of students. Some are from other traditions, some maybe they are students who do not have any experience of, I mean, students who do not have training in Buddhist studies, Buddhist culture, or whatever. So it's important to read this earlier and to come to the class with some ideas, thoughts, insights. Then we can discuss. I like you asking questions because the now asking questions signifies that you have certain areas unclear because you need to have such unclear areas because what we discuss in the class does not directly go into your mind. Nobody can do that. Okay, so noble person. So when you truly touches nibbanic element, you call that person an Aryan. Probably it has a connection with the Indian word Arya, Sanskrit word Arya. Arya. What is Arya? Can you tell me something about Aryans?
Noble.
Aryan. Huh?
Noble.
Sorry? Noble. No. Yeah. Noble. Arya means noble. Arya means noble, the Sanskrit word. So Arya definitely has connection with that one. So Arya in India was called, Aryans were, now the difference between Buddhism and Indian Hinduism or Vedic religion is that, especially when it comes to what we call these descriptions of Aryans, this explanation of Aryans, the Aryans in Indian pre-Buddhist India were considered as who? The Aryans in pre-Buddhist pre-Buddhist India were
probably the noble the Brahmic caste.
Yeah, yes, very correct. Noble Brahmins born in the superior superior caste, which is the Brahmin caste. Yeah, they were the Aryans, right? That is how especially the major Indian creed, major in pre-Buddhist Indian creed, that is the Vedic religion taught us. Those who were born in the Brahmin caste were called Aryans. They were called Aryans not only because they were born in the superior caste, but also they were the people who retain the divine knowledge, jnana, authoritative knowledge. So they were called Aryans. So the Vedic texts were available only to them. Only they were capable of handling, reading, studying them. No others. So these are, but Buddha taught a different. Buddha didn't add anything. The Buddha didn't have anything to say about caste and creeds, but Buddha divided the humans as Arya and Anarya in a different way. The Buddha differentiated between the two in the way that Aryas are recognized as those who have truly touched the Nibbanic experience. And Anarya are still the people who have not been able to do that. So the Aryans are the people who have experienced Nibbana to some extent, if not fully, to some extent, in a way that you are not going to forget that. You are going to forget that once you have that experience, when you have that experience, that you are not going to lose it. You are going to have that experience, the ability to experience that, the freedom, the nibbana, uh, throughout the rest of your life. But anyway, basically the Aryans, those who have realized, those who have experienced the Nibbanic experience, and the other group, those who have not experienced the Nibbanic experience. Anari. Arya Puggala, the noble person, is an important dimension. Arya Savaka, and as a group, Savaka Sangha. So we have different names for this group of people. So we call Arya Puggala, Arya Savaka, noble disciple. Or we have Savaka Sangha. Sangha is a word used for this group who experience Nibbana irrespective of their clothes, irrespective of their life living. So whether it be a layman or whether it be a ordained one, you can become a member of Arya group, a member of Aryan group. The differences is also indicated by that noble person has transcended the two types of extreme forms of religious. Yes. Any questions you have to ask? Any question?
Yes, Bandy. As
Okay.
far as I know, self-modification means Atagila Matanu Yoga. I think it is typo in your notes.
No. Yeah. Self-indulgence. Yeah. Oh, it's a type. Yeah, typological error. Yeah, thank you very much. So the two words, I think, should change their positions. Now this should go here. Yeah, thank you. This should go here, and this should come here. Is it?
Yes, Benny.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So yeah, that's right. It's a typological error. Actually, it's my error rather than typological error. It's my error because putting the wrong word at the wrong place. Self-indulgence. So they have transcended. So Dveanta, the noble person, have transcended these two extremes. Dveanta, Ubhoanta. Ubhoanta, what are the two extremes? Unworthy of the unworthy ones. Unworthy ones is Anariya, the ordinary people, regular people. Yeah, the ordinary regular people. Okay, ordinary regular people. Aryans are not regular people. They are, even though they seem very much like the other people, they are very different from them. Now, one venerable, I could listen to one how to differentiate the two persons. Okay. Now, Arya and Anarya. If Anarya person who has touched the Nibbanic experience is also maybe a poor person who strive hard to earn his bread. So could be the Anarya person. The both could be very poor people, poor persons who strive hard to earn their bread. How can we understand the difference? So he gives a very meditating monk, I can remember, gives a very beautiful explanation, more intelligible type of explanation. He says, somebody comes and tell them, somebody comes and might tell them, there is a what we call a treasure hidden somewhere, and in order to take that treasure, what you have to do is to appease or please the spirit there. There is a spirit who is protecting the treasure. And you have to appease him, you have to please him with some sort of food. And what is the food? You have to give him the flesh of a hunt animal. Okay. If this is heard by the ordinary, the regular person, the Anariya Puggala, definitely will be enthusiastic to do that, even by killing a living man, a human being. Because we have seen such people, and even today, by ignorance, we see people, even in Sri Lanka, really, killing human beings, a man or a woman, in order to blindly engaging to take treasures. Okay, so we have, and many times they kill animals. But if this is same thing is heard by the Arya person, the noble one, he will never will think of killing an animal on behalf of such a treasure, on behalf of getting such a unlimited, uncalculable, enormous amount of the treasure, because that is the Arya Puggala has Hiri and Notap dominant. Hiri means what we call the fear of the spear, the fear and the shame of doing bad, unwholesome thing. Hiri and Ottappa. They are very dominant, but the regular person, the ordinary person, doesn't have them that prominent. So they will get ready to do that even when they come to know that that is possible. So they have transcended this level, dve anta, self-indulgence. Self-indulgence. So why the Anariya person wants to kill an animal to get the treasure of? Because in order to self-indulgence. Self-indulgence might come in different forms. Your properties, having children and nurturing them, becoming happy by seeing what you have, your properties, your family, the prosper, the way how you prosper. So all these things are different dimensions of what we call self-indulgence. What we call self-indulgence. It might come in different forms, in different ways and different forms, right? And then there is another dimension called Atta Kilamatanu Yoga. That is you sometimes tend to suffer as a religious practice. You tend to suffer Atta Kilamatanu Yoga, to rigorous pain even, in order to become, and that is a religious practice intended for freedom. So these are called extreme ends. So the Aryans have transcended both. Now if I ask this question, now there are poor people who cannot do self-indulgence, commit self-indulgence. How they are Anarias? Now, what is your answer? Now, all the people, now there are people who can perform self-indulgence as they have properties. But there are poor people who cannot do that because they don't have properties, so they don't have their own assets. So how can you call these people an Anari? Did you understand my question? Got it? Did you understand the question?
I don't understand, Chimplia. You ask us, how can poor people...
We are dividing the human folk into two, in Buddhist sense. One is one group is Arya, the noble ones, the other group is Anarya. Sorry, one group is Arya, the noble ones, the other group is Anarya.
Yeah,
The ordinary,
Putijana.
not jhana, Buddhist
Put,
practice.
we call in Myanmar, we call Putujana.
Putujana, yes, right, that's right. Putujana, we call Arya or Anarya. Anarya is, Arya is the noble one. Putujana is the Anarya, the ordinary regular one. Putujana, we also call.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we say that what was my question? My question was that now self-indulgence, the self-indulgence, and the self-indulgence and the self-mortification are the two extremes of the Anarya people. So, okay, self-mortification is a religious practice. We know that. And it is, the people do it in order to be freed from the samsara. And the other dimension is self-indulgence. What you call kama sukhallikanu yoga, that is the other side. What about the poor person? He doesn't have any asset. He doesn't have any money. He doesn't have any his own assets to do self-indulgence. Then how do you call that person a putujana? I mean, he's a ordinary, he's a unworthy one. He's an unworthy one, not unworthy. Unworthy one. Unworthy one. How do you call him an unworthy one? Because he doesn't do both of it. He doesn't do self-indulgence because he doesn't have any money. He doesn't do self-mortification because he's not a religious practitioner. So how do you call him unworthy one?
Because he has also desire for sensual pleasures.
Yeah, because he is not devoid of the intention of self-indulgence. That's correct. Very good. Thank you.
He
Because
cannot
psychologically,
he cannot eradicate loba siddhatika.
yeah, that's right. He retains that psychological readiness because he's always ready to do that. Once he has money, when he has assets, when he has anything pleasing objects around him, he will be so hasty to please him, to do self-indulge. Psychologically, he is always ready for that. So that therefore he is unworthy because psychologically he is in that situation. Okay, so now that's just an explanation. Having emancipated from the two extremes, they practice Eightfold Noble Path, devoid of cankers and as a path factor. So the noble ones practice. So if they are still practitioners, they escape these two sides, the two extremes, and they themselves practice Eightfold Noble Path. There is no any other path for anyone. Eightfold Noble Path is the standard path. For everyone to end up what we call suffering. Okay. 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 Now I would like to stop my class today from here for some reason. And please read this handout very carefully. The next day I will summarize the lesson very much, and I will go to another lesson in next hour. So I need you to read very carefully. I need you to read this very thoroughly. to get the essence. And next day we will definitely go to another lesson as well. So I will stop the class here. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Master.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Honorable sir.
As Basa.
Okay.